Hi, welcome to Film Ladder, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on film industry jobs. My name is Lexi, and I chat with creatives on what they do, how they got there, and how to excel.
I'm so excited to introduce today's guests. They have worked their way up to being an assistant production coordinator. Their credits include the Big Door Prize and the pilots of English Teacher and Grosse Pointe Garden Society. Sarah Himes, welcome to Film Ladder.
Hi, Lexi. Thanks for having me.
So happy to have you on. All right, so your story is very unique, but this episode we are going to touch base on an assistant production coordinator. So can you give us a couple sentences of what that job is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the assistant production coordinator is the second in command in the production department under the production coordinator. And your primary tasks typically include managing the production office, including managing the office production assistants, as well as coordinating production rentals. You are also acting as the receiver, organizer, and distributor of most of the information on the show.
That's a great explanation of that.
Thank you.
Perfectly worded. Yeah, you guys do a lot of things. Yet I feel like a lot of people don't know exactly what you guys do, but your hands are in almost every department.
Yeah, I like to tell people that we're kind of, if you think about the production as a wheel, we're kind of like the middle because we
Mm,
liaise with the studio, with the producers, with the crew, with the cast. We are kind of helping everybody and kind of act as like a central hub of intelligence.
yeah, no, for sure. So what would you say then a week in the job looks like? And as always, I would like to break it up pre-production, production, and wrap. And I think your guys' job is one of the special ones that is involved from the very beginning to the very end. So if you can kind of walk me through all the stages.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you start on a show and you're starting in pre-production, your first order of business is getting the production office ready. So you are typically one of the first people to come onto the show, and you're going to be making sure that the offices are set up. That could include coordinating furniture rentals, copiers, making sure that the kitchen is set up and stocked. And then once you start getting your showrunners and your executives in, you're going to be assisting them with their prep. So this will be facilitating a prep schedule, which has all the information on the meetings that they're going to be taking. You're going to be working with casting to making sure that the deal memos that casting is closing are getting to the producers and to the people that need it. You're going to be setting up equipment rentals that the grip and electric departments need, also getting walkie rentals. So pre-production is busy basically assisting the creatives getting prepped and also handling on a lot of the logistic tasks to make sure that the production is ready to go when they start day one. You're also going to be helping with huge meetings such as the production meeting and the tech scout. So for tech scout, you're going to be making sure that they have a breakfast before they leave. If their production meeting is on Zoom, you're going to be helping make sure that the Zoom is working correctly and making sure that all of the correct parties have the Zoom link, including the studio executives. And same thing applies if there's a cast table read, making sure that the cast has the correct Zoom meeting, making sure that the Wi-Fi is working properly. Like you're basically event coordinating the whole prep and making sure that everything runs smoothly. Then during production, actually, I would say things calm down a little bit because you do a lot of work in pre to make sure that production runs smoothly. When production is going on, you're mostly handling distribution of call sheets. You're also going to be constantly creating and generating documents like the crew list. And then every single day, the AD department is going to be sending in production reports. So those have to be reviewed and edited. And you go over those with the UPM as well as accounting and payroll to make sure that all of the information on there is correct. That's like a whole task on its own. And then, of course, troubleshooting any issues that come up. If there are walkie-talkies that go missing, if there is loss and damage that occurs, you're helping facilitate making sure that vendors are paid correctly. So that's kind of majority of production. Production is actually my favorite part because it
Okay.
kind of goes quiet. And then and then during wrap, you're basically just undoing all the work that you did before. So if it's a movie and you're going to be moving out of the office space completely, you are going to be getting rid of all of those rentals. You're going to be sending the copier back, sending the furniture back. And we might be finding a warehouse if they're going to store any costumes or equipment or set deck that they are wanting to save or recycle for another show. So that's kind of like what you do in wrap. And yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Like you said, It's almost like you're the catch-all in a lot of things too, I like how you said the center of the wheel.
Yeah, you are basically also helping all of the departments if they have anything that comes up. So if hair and makeup needs help, or grip and electric needs help, or art department needs help, you are always kind of like lending yourself to make sure that everyone has what they need to succeed.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So since you're the assistant production coordinator and there's a production coordinator, what are the main differences in the roles you guys do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Working in production is a fun department because I feel like it's very collaborative within your department. So the production coordinator is the top of your department. And then as the assistant coordinator, you're number two. And then there's going to be a production secretary who's number three. And then under that, you're going to have your office assistants. What's nice is, and on a lot of teams, the coordinator, the APC, which is assistant production coordinator, and the
Mhm.
secretary, if you have a good collaborative team, you guys can kind of divvy up the tasks that need to be done, especially if someone wants to learn something that maybe they haven't learned before. For example, an assistant production coordinator could do the production reports, or you can learn to do that as a secretary. I would say that as an assistant production coordinator versus a coordinator, the coordinator will typically handle any tasks that are more sensitive or maybe more risky to handle. Like if there's a sensitive actor and maybe they have a difficult contract or something, or they have difficult travel, the coordinator might be handling that. Also, sometimes the coordinator will want to manage the PAs, but sometimes the assistant coordinator will handle the PAs. I would say most of the time when I've been an assistant production coordinator, I typically handle the exhibit Gs, which is basically the time card for the actors, the production reports, the prep schedule, equipment rentals, and setting up equipment accounts with vendors, and kind of overseeing the PAs, especially when it comes to food. I forgot to say this, food is a huge part of working in the production office because sometimes during prep you're coordinating lunch for the entire prepping crew or the entire office. If there's a camera test, you're prepping crew, you're prepping food. If there is a tech scout or a production meeting, you're handling food, and they really don't want you to mess the food up. So sometimes we'll have the PAs like help find the food, but I usually get really like nervous about it, so then I kind of take it over.
Isn't that funny? It's so true though. Of just like we don't mess up the food.
They're like,
Keep
really?
everyone just, full and happy with the right food and it goes a long way.
Yeah, I remember like just being in the office and I was like, if I can just get to like 2 o'clock and get past food, I'll be so happy every day.
So true. Can you dumb it down for listeners who have no idea how a show runs? So you're saying you're handling equipment rentals and setting up
Mhm.
accounts. So basically you're saying, especially like with camera, for example, they
Mhm.
have to rent out a lot of their equipment. So you're the one setting up accounts pretty much, correct?
Yeah, so production will typically be one of the first departments that's hired on. So we will start, let's say if it's a movie, we would start maybe 6 weeks out from day one of filming. They're not going to bring in the camera team, the G&E, which is grip and electric. They're not going to bring those departments in until maybe a few days before you start. But they still need to have all of their equipment ready to go for when they're ready to load into their trucks to get ready to start shooting. And so what we do in the office is we reach out to the equipment rental houses, like such for camera, that could be Panavision or Keslo. For grip, it could be a dolly rental, like from Chapman Leonard, and or MBS for expendables. So you'll get lists of what they need, or like maybe what the UPM wants you to buy. And you basically go to those rental houses and you work with accounting and you set the accounts up so that we will just get invoiced for them. And then we basically work to say, oh, we need the dolly rental from this day to this day. So I basically do all the paperwork to make that happen so that the grip team can show up, pick up the dolly, and go to set and get started. So
Mm-hmm.
we basically handle all the back end paperwork to make sure that the camera, grip, electric, AD department, that nobody has to handle paperwork except for us. And they can just pick up equipment and go.
And then what do you do for cast with their deal memos? And you said if, there's a sensitive topic or like, so what details are you guys seeing and then having to work on?
Yeah. So Basically, the process will be that casting will close a deal on a cast member, and they generate a document called the cast deal memo. And this has all of the cast members' information that could be pertinent to production. So this will include their name, social security number, their address, and then any of their deal points, such as travel, is usually a big one. So like if they need a greeter at the airport, or if they require a certain type of housing, or if they're having car service, like we have to pay attention to all of that stuff. And typically on a show, you'll have a travel coordinator, but it's also the production coordinator's job to kind of keep an eye out on this as well.
Mm,
But so you're just making sure that all of the deal points that have been agreed on by casting are being met per like
mm,
their signed agreement. And so I don't typically have to deal with their travel, but another important thing that'll be on the deal memo will be like what sort of trailer they get. So somebody that's a day player cast member, so maybe a very small role that's just going to come in for one day of work, they might just get a very small standard trailer to be in.
mhm.
But possibly a big name cast member is going to have maybe their own trailer, and it has to be up to a certain trim level and it has to be, stocked with certain things. So you're reading this deal memo to make sure that all of those things are satisfied. And
Okay.
then what I mean by sensitive information would be things like their social security number or their address. Cast members have certain cast members can be pretty big on these shows we work on. So we just want to make sure that we're protecting their privacy. And so we will take those documents and we will kind of redact any information so that I can send it to the transportation department, or so I can send it to the hair and makeup department, because maybe hair and makeup needs their phone number so that they can contact them about, any allergies or what products work well on their skin, but they don't need to know their social security number. You know what
Mhm.
I mean?
Yeah, for sure. That's so interesting. So then you guys get that information, and then technically you're the point of contact to then give to transportation and hair, makeup, and whatnot.
Yeah. So there is a certain level of like discretion and responsibility that comes with the role to kind of be protecting our cast members and also making sure that the right departments are getting the right information.
Yeah. I'm just laughing because as an assistant before, I've had people come to me and be like, "Hey, I need so and so's phone number. I need this and that." And not being so new, but I use my discretion and I'm able to give out that information. They're coming to me
Mhm.
because they know it, but I'm like, "Oh, there's a real, like, source that they are supposed to go to, and it's the production office
Yeah.
versus me."
They're probably trying to like go past us if they think that we won't give it to them.
Eh, probably, and I think, honestly, again, why I have this podcast is because people truly don't know actually where they're supposed to get information and the correct things, because sometimes we're
Mhm.
just plopped into our roles. And
Right.
so it's like, okay, I needed to get it from the producer, and I know the producer's assistant has this information. I just need this person's number real quick, and stuff like that. So, and then
Mhm.
obviously my boss knows who I'm getting the information to as well, so it's okay. But
Mhm.
yeah, there's steps to it. Interesting. Go to
Yeah. I
the
would say that
coordinators.
I would say that if you're on a show and you're new and maybe like when in doubt, you can always call the production office and ask. And a good thing to be like would be like, "Hi, I'm looking for this information and this is kind of why I need it. Would you be able to help me, or could you tell me who could help me?" And especially because we kind of handle the crew list, that means we have the contact information for every single person that's on the crew. So we are a great point of contact if you need to get in contact with somebody else.
Mm, s- that's key. And I think
Mhm.
people are like scared to ask. I feel bad. Like everyone wants to act like they know what's going on or that they know what to do or how to get their information, but you can ask. This brings me back to my episode when I was like, there's a film office I can call, a phone number. Who's going to answer? I was like, no one's there. No one can help me. I'm like, just 180 of what you guys truly do.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have that sort of central hub, and I think that's a really big part of working in the production office is that you kind of have to meet a lot of different people with where they are, because
Yeah.
it's like every single show I work on, somebody does come into the office and will be like, they act like it's the first time that they're knowing that we exist.
They're like, so what do you do here? You're like, honey, I've been here since day one. What?
I'm like, who are you?
Yeah, no, actually, who are you?
Totally.
So, I mean, we kind of talked about different things, but like, what is one misconception that you think people have on either the production office or your role?
Kind of going off what we were saying is I think some people think that we're not doing anything when they walk into the office. I think it's because our jobs are very computer based. People will kind of come up to us and they'll be like, I have a 911. And you're like, I'm dealing with two other 911s right now. Like,
Yeah.
and I think people don't always, because a lot of departments are their department. Like if you're in hair and makeup, you're worried about hair and makeup. We're worried about our department plus the studio, plus the producers, plus every single department to make sure everybody's happy and taken care of. So I think that is a big misconception, is that just because you walk up to us and we're on our computers doesn't mean that we're not busy.
Right. 100%. And you have to greet everyone. So it's definitely people, I feel like, just come and be like, want to chit chat, which is fine. But, they definitely are like, you probably aren't doing important work. But you're like, I have a list of 20 things to do, actually, all pressing. Every department is saying, theirs is the most important. And yeah, for sure. And you have to order food on top of that and make sure it's here on time.
Yeah, ordering food and also like just office vendors. Like if AC is out and you're having to have the HVAC
Yeah.
guy come out. And so it's like you're having to deal with your film crew people plus like outside people that don't always know what you're doing and don't
Yeah.
understand how film works. And you're having to like get them to help you too. So yeah.
Plus, someone can't get in at the gate. There's a paper jam. The Wi-Fi's out. All of a sudden, it's like,
Someone's
the production
parking someone
office.
else's parking spot.
Yeah, they're like, this is your problem. Fix it.
Yeah,
And
and
you're
you're
like,
like, I don't care about your
on it.
parking spot, bro. Park somewhere else.
All right, so let's rewind then. And I want to know your first in the industry.
Yeah, good question. My in was a little serendipitous. I had graduated college and then I was a big Disney person growing up. So I actually went to Orlando and did the Disney college program for a semester after I graduated, which was like super fun way to spend like when you're like, I'm not really ready for an adult job yet.
Yeah, go to
Um,
Disney. How fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. And then I left that and COVID happened. So I ended up moving back home. And I honestly was just at home and I was really wanting to get into the film industry. And then a girl that I went to college with, I went to the University of Georgia and my major was called Entertainment and Media Studies, but it was basically like film production. So a girl that I went to college with who I really wasn't that good of friends with, but she texted me randomly and was like, hey, this movie I'm working on is looking for COVID like nurse assistants to come work. Like, are you available? Like, could you come like do a COVID test like tomorrow? And I was like, and I didn't really trust this girl, which is kind of funny because I was like, she was not somebody that I was like really keen on. And so I was like, oh, this could be kind of weird. But I didn't have anything else going on. So I was like, sure, yeah, I can do it. And so then the next day I showed up and ended up being a big like MGM movie. And so I was like, whoa, this is cool. So my very first job, I was the on-set COVID PA for the second unit of this movie called Samaritan. And it was a Sylvester Stallone movie. And for anyone that doesn't know, the second unit is typically a unit that they will do if there's a lot of stunts or maybe explosions or cars. And so that was what this was. It was really stunt heavy. They like blew up a building. They drove a giant truck through a brick wall. So honestly, for like my very first film job, it was really crazy and a really fun set to be on.
Yeah.
The only downside was that it was all overnights. So it was like 4 weeks and I was literally like I would show up to work at like 8 p.m. because it was all nights, exterior type vibes. So when I was on that show, I kind of befriended the second AD, who is our friend Kevin. And I basically was like begging him. I was like, I really want to keep working in film and I want to be a set PA because I was so new at this point. And as a COVID PA, I was really just like handing out masks to people and trying to like not get yelled at. I remember one time I had like put some stuff I was like trying to rearrange my stuff and I put like a bag down on this box that belonged to the grip department. And this guy came up and just started like yelling at me. He was like, don't put your stuff on my stuff. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, they hate me.
My career is over.
I was like, I'm never working again. I'm just so dumb. But then Kevin was really sweet. And actually from that job, I jumped over I was a COVID PA on like a TV show for a little while. And then I actually hit Kevin up, and because I knew he was going to this show called Doom Patrol, and he actually let me know that they weren't looking for a set PA, but he said that the office was looking for an office PA. And so then I started on Doom Patrol as an office PA, and then I just was in the office ever since then.
And that's where you met the APC who then brought you on to Jerry and March Large, right? Is that how you got on that show?
Yeah, so the assistant coordinator, I was an office PA on Doom Patrol, and then the assistant coordinator, she was going to a movie and they really needed a production secretary. And at the time, I wish it was like this now, but at the time there was a lot of work. So there wasn't a lot of people available. And so she was like, you were a hard worker and like you seem eager to learn. So we were doing a lot of overnights on that show. So at night, she would teach me secretary stuff. And then I went over to that show with her as the secretary, which was Jerry and Marge Go Large. So that was like the only feature I've ever worked on. And then from there, I met Rose, and Rose was the coordinator. And then she kind of became a mentor of mine. And so she kind of took me under her wing and she trained me to be a secretary on that show and then took us to the Big Door Prize. And then we did the English teacher pilot together, which is where she trained me to be an assistant coordinator. And then I did the Big Door Prize season 2 as the assistant coordinator, but I had a different coordinator then. So yeah.
Right. Such a fun journey. It was nice when like there was so much work. It was a little easier to work your way up because people were working. And so now it's different.
Totally. I miss it a lot. And I think it was nice because there was so much opportunity to move up quickly. Whereas now it's like you feel like you're kind of stuck in your position unless something like
Yeah.
really good happens.
Yeah. And people are even kind of backtracking a little bit too. Like,
Definitely.
I'm qualified to be a APC now, but if they need a secretary, maybe I'll take that, and I've just been seeing that in all the
Mhm.
departments. People just taking all the work that they can get.
Mhm.
And, thank you for explaining how you got from point A to point B. And usually I ask people, what helped them get to their role or prepare for the next one. And you kind of you did talk about it, just they trained you in those overnights. So I think that's good advice of just the people above you divvying up the work, asking those questions, and they training you on that. Was there really anything else other than day to day getting thrown into it? But I would say mentors.
Yeah, I think mentors are a huge part of the industry. And I think that's why your personality does play a lot of role in your advancement in this industry. Being well liked and being easy to work with is very important and goes a long way. I think
Hmm.
my other piece of advice that I would say is that you have to tell people what you want to do. You have to be very clear, and people will want to invest their time into you and training you if they feel like you are truly invested in moving up.
Hmm.
People don't always want to waste their time training you if you are just like not really sure what you want to do quite yet.
Right.
So I think it's good to find people that you work well with and to be very clear about what your objectives are in the industry. And I think
Yeah.
it's also fine if you were an office production assistant and you really wanted to get into art department. There's nothing wrong with that. We all like have our own paths, but just being communicative about that because you never know, like your coordinator could help you get into art department because they have friends in art department too. So I think just really knowing and just being really honest about what your goals are.
Yeah. Do you have any piece of advice for people that are so new to film sets that they might not even really know? Or how do they kind of find their lane? Do you have any advice on that? It's hard, right?
It's hard because I don't even know if I've really found my lane yet.
No, I'm like,
I could
it's
give that advice.
and it's every role you have observe, right? Like your surroundings. And what was cool about the office is you get to work with a lot of departments and you get
Mhm,
to I think sometimes we get in this lane of like, okay, what's available to me? How can I work my way up? And then you get there and you're like, wait, is this even what I wanted? So it's like,
mhm,
okay, sometimes to take a step to observe, to see how things are running, and then try to like start voicing, like you said, hey, I've noticed art department has piqued my interest the most, even verbalizing that
mhm,
to say a coordinator or whatnot, and then they can give you their insight on that. And then
mhm.
you can properly see if that is what you want to do or not. So like you said, just being vocal about it and admitting when you don't know something. I think that's
Totally.
totally okay. Hey, prop seems fun. I don't know a lot about it. All of a sudden you can talk with them. You're not guaranteed you're going to get a job in that, but like you can
Mhm.
still be curious. And I think that's a great trait to have.
I completely agree. Like, and people, something that's great about film is a lot of people that are in it are very passionate about their jobs. So, like you said, if you are interested in props and you have an opportunity and you notice that the props people maybe have some downtime, just going up and saying, like, hey, I'm really interested in what you do. Like, can you tell me more about it? And as long as they're not like in the throes or obviously very busy, most people are really excited to tell you about their job.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think being curious and definitely like you said, because I was kind of a victim of that, of getting so caught up in moving up so quickly that I didn't always necessarily think about, is this really what I want to be doing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think that's an important part too, to like be very observant, ask a lot of questions, and also just look at the schedules of what people are doing, look at the work that they're doing, and something that I also encourage people to realize about working in film is that everybody works really, really hard. So thinking that art department works less than locations, works less than grip, works less than camera, that's a fallacy. Everybody's job is very, very hard and takes a lot from you. So
Mm-hmm.
having respect that everybody is doing a lot of work and that it's not like you're going to have an easier time in a different department.
That's a good mindset because that right there is the number one reason why there is little tiffs here and there. I think everyone feels like they're misunderstood or that their work doesn't seem as important as someone else's. And
Mhm.
so there's this notion of like this, what is that department even doing? Like their work isn't as important as mine. And if we all had the same mindset of like we're all a piece of the puzzle, well, we are all doing important work and our work matters. I
Yeah.
think there would be less. I don't even want to know if the word is tiff, but just less,
Contention, maybe.
yeah, contention. And just, I can tell sometimes departments, instead of working together and flowing, there, it's like a competition. And
Mhm.
that shouldn't be the case. It's all made up in our egos, like there is no competition. So,
And I think that's why this podcast is great because if you listen to this, get to learn about what everybody's doing and you might realize, oh, I didn't even know locations was handling all that. Like,
mhm.
no, they're not just like sitting out at the locations truck. They're busy like we all are, you know?
100%. I still think of Jerry and Marge Go Large. My idea of locations from observing as a set PA was they're
Yeah.
just the one that has to answer the walkie when there's like a leaf blower on a roof somewhere. That was like a real case scenario. And I'm just like, oh no, they have to like go find that person on the roof. How like they're just there for emergencies, and that was
Yeah.
my thought of locations. I was like, don't want to do that job. And
Right.
then I ended up doing it. But yes, 100% I agree. So let's go then into my third phase, which is different personality traits that would really fit the role of an assistant production coordinator.
As an assistant production coordinator, you really need to have customer service at the top of your mind because, as we've been saying, a lot of people are going to come up to you with a lot of questions, a lot of 911s, a lot of I need helps. So, you really have to be able to meet people where they're at and bring a good attitude. I think that will get you the furthest and probably also keep your own mind sane. I think also being tech savvy is really important. People think that we are IT people and printer techs. So it's very helpful if you actually are good at hooking up printers and dealing with Wi Fi and helping hair and makeup learn how to make a Word document. Those are all really good traits to have. No shade to hair and makeup,
No shade,
but a little shade.
but I've had to do it.
Oh, yeah, I've had to do it. But yeah, basically customer service and also a huge thing is being able to toggle because you could be like deep in working on the PR and then you get a phone call and you need to do something on the fly. And you have to be able to like quickly change your mindset and figure that new thing out and then be able to go back to like whatever you're doing. Or if you need to send a PA on a run, you need to be able to stop what you're doing, talk to them, make sure that they have what they need, make sure that they know what they're doing, answer a phone call, greet somebody, and then go back to what you're doing. So constantly having your head on a swivel, having a really good customer service based attitude are the key points, I would say.
Yeah. And we didn't really chat about it, but you do lead the team a lot of the times, you and the coordinator. So you are in charge of divvying up the roles of
well, I should say the duties of the office production assistants?
Yeah, so the office assistants will kind of know like what their day-to-day tasks are, such as like maintaining the kitchen, ordering lunch for everybody, making sure that the office supplies are stocked. And there could be tasks just depending on your office space, like making sure the printer has copier, paper. But yeah, because like for example, you could have to go pick up walkies, or maybe a walkie's broken and you have to coordinate a walkie swap to get a functional walkie from the rental house. So you have to know what time you're sending the PA, or maybe a cast member has flowers or a gift basket that needs to be picked up, or maybe the office is out of bananas. So you have to be like, all right, go pick up the bananas and then pick up the flowers and then do the walkie swap and then come back here. And then you need to do your cachet receipts because it's Friday, and then you need to do your time cards. So it's like you are kind of having to help dictate their schedule and just make sure that any runs, and a run is just when you need to go drive in the car somewhere. Just making sure that those are being done on time and that things are moving appropriately and utilizing your manpower in the most optimized way that you can.
Yeah. This is bringing me back to when I was an office PA,
Yeah.
when the whole gang was together. What fun times.
I miss it.
It was a lot of fun, but yes, exactly that. So with that said, give us a hard truth with this job.
I would say that a hard truth about being an assistant production coordinator is you are somewhat always a little bit on call. And a lot of the times, UPMs or line producers or people may call you outside of your working hours. And there kind of is a little bit of an expectation that unless it's a huge ask, that you're going to kind of handle it when they're calling you. So, if there is a call sheet revision that the ADs decided to do on a Sunday and your UPM calls you on a Sunday afternoon and wants you to send out a blue call sheet, sending out a call sheet maybe takes 10 minutes. But, it is something that you're being asked to do when you're technically off the clock. So I think sometimes having to advocate for your time can be really challenging in this role. And just that you can kind of be called at all hours and contacted with questions, even when you're not on the clock or not at work.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but on the Big Door Prize, one of the ADs got in a car accident on a Saturday. And so she didn't, it is kind of funny. I don't know maybe if this is right or wrong, but it's like people sometimes forget how to like act in a situation. Like they're like, I can't think for myself.
Mhm.
So she then calls, or maybe because it was the rental car, but she called the office team. And I remember I got paid for it, but I had to go pick her up and like bring her somewhere or handle that situation on a Saturday.
Yeah.
It's just like the most random things. And she was fine. It was like a little fender bender. It wasn't like a
Yeah.
serious car accident, but still it's like it all of a sudden became the office's problem in a way.
Yeah. That happens more than you can imagine. Yeah, car breaks down, or if an actor travels in and they can't get into their apartment, they might call you to maybe send a PA to go help let them in or help them figure it out. Script changes, call sheet changes. There's a number of things that can just kind of come up. And sometimes you don't have to fight to be paid. Like in your situation, you were obviously having to take a significant amount of time to go do that, but
Mhm.
it's all those like little things in the call. You're like, can you just like send this like one little
Yeah.
memo out? And you're like, no, I don't
Right.
want to do that.
Especially, yeah, if they're just like, and we're not going to pay you for it. Just like, can you do
Yeah.
it on your downtime on the weekend? And it's like, so thankful for my job, so thankful to do this. But like, what is the line between having a social life and being married to the job,
Yeah. And it's a hard line too, because, you want to seem like a team player and you want your bosses to like you and want to keep hiring you back. So
Yeah.
maybe you don't want to be as stern about those things, but it's also like you're a person and your time is valuable and you have a life. So, yeah, where is that line, and how you navigate that can be sometimes kind of tiring, especially because a lot of the other departments, like such as camera or G&E, they're very strict about like their time, being on the clock. Or I don't know if you've ever talked about clicks on the show, but they want all of
Mm-mm.
their clicks paid for.
Can you
Yeah.
say what a click is real quick for people who don't know?
Clicks are like film time. It's kind of how we measure time, and they're come in 6-minute increments. So like if it was like 2 clicks after 9 o'clock, it would be 9:12. I don't really know where that came from, but it's just kind of like a UPM might call someone and be like, you were 2 clicks over your out time, what it should have been. and then they'll kind of argue about it. I don't know if that's a good explanation, but, like, that's
Yeah,
the
no.
context of cliques that I've always, like, had to deal with.
Yep. Now, you have a very unique story because you did kind of switch lanes and tried a different department, and you were
Mhm.
an APC and then you wanted to go into accounting. So, can you explain that kind of journey for us?
Yeah, definitely. So, if you've kept up with the industry, you've known about the strikes that have happened over I say the last 2 years because the work has just been kind of not really recovered fully, I think. But yeah, I was kind of just in a position last year where I I was an assistant coordinator on two like really small things, and they were just not like the best projects, slim pickings vibes.
Hmm.
It was like how I was describing, I just felt like I was having to work really long hours, super late, and I was just being called when I was at home, and it was just kind of grating on me. And being in production, you work really closely with accounting. And so I saw that one, accounting is always working. Accounting works really long. They start really early and they wrap a really long time after. So accounting is pretty much working all the time,
Which
and
is like
then
duration of time, not like 24 hours a day, but you're saying like months, working way more months than production is.
yes, like, accounting teams will could be brought in 2 or 3 months ahead of the start of production, and then they could stay on for months and months after production wraps, and especially on a TV show, if you're rolling right into the next season, they could just stay on and keep working. So I saw that accounting always seemed to be employed, number 1, and 2, accounting works banking hours, typically. So the latest I've ever really seen accounting teams work is until 7 o'clock at night. And
Yeah.
in production, I was working until like sometimes 10 or 11 o'clock at night, sometimes into the overnights, depending on the show. And so I just was like, I think for myself, I just want to have a little bit better work-life balance. And I felt like my skills from the production office would translate well to accounting. And so I decided to move over to accounting. But something I will say is that in film, like how I said I got kind of caught up in moving up, is that when you sometimes decide to move departments, you kind of have to start over,
Hmm.
which can be challenging. So I moved over to accounting. So I just did my first season as an accounting clerk on Tulsa King, which is on Paramount Plus, and I actually loved it. I'm gonna go back for season 4
Oh,
starting
great.
soon. So yeah, I'm not gonna say accounting is the most glamorous, but I have really enjoyed my time over there. So yeah.
That's awesome. And I like to hear that story of just like people who, okay, I'm working my way up and wait, I might want to switch. Is that doable? Is that possible? And like it can be. Like you said, of course, you may have to start back at the bottom. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's good to try to find your lane sooner than later if you don't want to go through that. But it's still very doable.
It's totally doable. And, for me, I just was like, I'd rather make this change now than keep continuing in this path that is not really satisfying me. So yeah, it's just a choice you just have to make. And I'm lucky I have a partner that is very supportive. And so even through the challenges of, making less money and having a different schedule, he's very supportive of me. And, you know, at least in accounting,
Yeah.
I don't know where I was gonna go with that. But
Well, do
yeah,
you think that you have a little better work life balance working in accounting?
definitely. I've been really wanting to pursue more, or it's like, what's the way I wanna say it? Like, I think I just wanted to start finding more value outside of work, like, one, through spending time with my friends, spending time with my partner, pursuing, like, my personal hobbies. And while I think film can be a really satisfying career for a lot of people, I think for me, I was just kind of not being satisfied creatively in the role. And I mean, working in production is great, but it is not a creative role. Like,
Hmm.
you are very much data, documentation, organization. And I just didn't really feel like that was satisfying the creative parts of myself. So while I did move to accounting and accounting is not creative, it at least provides me with the free time that I wanted to be able to have time to pursue my own creative interests, or to, I joined a pickleball league. Like, I that's something I would have
Yeah.
never been able to do in production. And so now I have more of a life outside of work, and I can do whatever I want with that time. So I find that very freeing, and it's a compromise that works for me right now.
Yeah. Well, with all that said, what would be your piece of advice for someone trying to have a film career, and that can be in production or just in general?
Yeah, I would say my best piece of advice for anyone thinking about getting into film is to kind of just remember why you want to get in. Are you really passionate about storytelling? And is working in big budget film the best way to do about that? Or would maybe the best way to make your own stuff? And I just think remembering your why is really important.
Yeah, that's really good because it will take up your why and
Oh,
you'll spend your times and you have to go back to that and have that lead your path. Otherwise, you can well, one, there's not a lot of work, so I guess hopefully you get on and once you're in, sometimes it
yeah,
just kind of consumes you. So remember your why and stay true to that. I love that advice.
definitely.
Okay, I've been kind of ending these now with like, what was your most memorable day on set? And
Ooh.
honestly, that can be any day. You can take it how you want, if it was a stressful production day or if it was like a really cool day. But yeah, what comes to mind when I say that?
I'll go with with a positive memory. My most memorable day on set was probably the day that from my very first movie that we were talking about where they did this huge stunt and they ran basically like a garbage truck through a brick wall. And I just remember they had to do so much prep with the special effects department to make sure that everything was like safe and to make sure that we were prepped and that like all of the like 6 cameras we had were rolling. And I remember like you're not supposed to do this at all, but I remember I had my phone and I was like because I thought it
We
was
all do
so
it. We really
cool.
all do it.
We all do it. But yeah, like that was just so cool. And that being one of my very first, like my very first show I ever did, I was like, this is so cool. Like, where else do you get to see stuff like this?
Oh yeah. And you kind of go home and it's like weird to be back in civilization and be like, "Do you know what my eyes just saw?" Like, "Do you know what I just did at work? What we just did at work?" Like
Yeah. My day included watching a garbage truck bust through a brick wall and
like
explode.
and
Like,
explode. And there was like
that's so
100 of us
cool.
there, lights, cameras, action, and you're just like
Yeah.
at the grocery store. You're like, "I need to tell everyone."
It definitely felt like one of those moments that you see in movies about making movies.
Yes.
It's like what I think people think every day on set is like that, and it's not, but it was cool to actually have one of those days.
Absolutely. You're like, I'm in it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm here. Yes. The movie magic is really cool for sure.
Mhm.
And you definitely have those moments where you're like, this is what it's all about. This is
Mhm.
why I'm here. How did I get here? This is awesome for sure. But it's not always like that. Like you said.
No, there's a lot of really boring long days on set.
Yeah. The next day is like a coffee shop scene, two talking heads,
Oh my
crews just
gosh.
trying to stay awake.
Yes.
And somehow you're behind and you don't know how.
And everyone's grumpy.
And
Yeah,
everyone's grumpy. But we love it. The film is great.
we do.
We do. Navigating just so many egos. It's just really funny to me.
Yeah. And I'll add though that I think one of my favorite parts about working on film and the reason why I still want to stick with it, at least for the time being, is that the work is very project based. And so if you're someone who loves to travel and you love to have potentially like multiple weeks off where you're not working, I think film is great for that. And that's a big important reason for me is I love the feeling of finishing a show and then I can be like, all right, I'm going to France for 2 weeks and nobody's going to call me and nobody needs me
Yeah.
and I can just live it up. And then, you hope there's a show to come back to.
Hey, Sarah, that's so real as I just got back from London on Monday from a
Yeah.
3-week trip to Europe. And I'm like, well, that's very nice. I know I was thinking that too while I was over there. I was like, what other job, as much as it is unstable, though, do you
Mhm.
get this time off where you can go travel? So if that interests you, not saying we get all the money in the world to go
Right.
do that, but it is possible with this job. And I know a lot of people look at us and go, oh, that's such a perk, and that is. But then you also have the side of things where you come back and you're like, okay, what am I doing for work now?
Yeah, it's the great balance of like trying to live up the time that you are away from work, but also not spend too much money because you don't know when the next job is going to come.
Right.
So you just have to be really good at navigating that headspace. And sometimes I'm better at it than others. Like I just got back from a beach trip and I have a few more weeks until I go back to work. And I will say I'm in the best position because I know when I'm going back to work. So
Oh, yeah. You're
that's
not
the best
stressed at
feeling ever.
all.
I'm not stressed
You're
at all.
like, this is the
But
best
I
film
haven't felt like
career.
that in like 2 years. So it's like
Yes. Yeah.
The good
It's
comes with the bad.
very, very high highs, and there can be very low lows, especially in
Definitely.
navigating a film industry that is dwindling for sure.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
putting a lot of people through the ringer. So,
definitely.
well, thank you for all of these great truths that come with the film industry. I think it's very important to talk about all the ins and outs and the ups and downs. It's
That's
very
very
real,
true.
especially for someone wanting to navigate a film career. They should know all the ins and outs of it that come with it. So, thank you, Sarah, so much for this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the podcast. And for anyone listening, I hope that I gave you some more insight.
I think you did for sure. Thanks for listening to Film Ladder. I hope this episode brought you one step closer to understanding the many paths through the film industry. If you like this episode, consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing with someone else also navigating their next step. Until then, keep climbing.